Welcome to Reverb Roundtable, a weekly show that brings the brightest creative minds and digital producers in sports, entertainment, politics, news, and more to share their stories and strategies that will help you become a better leader and creator. Today, we are joined by Kassie Epstein, who has been running the social strategy for Gillette Stadium since 2008. She literally started their social media accounts. And Willy Whitelaw, who manages social for New England Revolution, a Major League Soccer team whose home field is, you guessed it, Gillette Stadium. We discuss how they got their start in social, what they think people should and shouldn't do on social, and so much more. All right, guys, let's jump in. Here's your host, Clark Campbell.
Thank you, Tessa. Yeah, me and William are here with two New England superstars in the social digital spaces. We're so excited, not only because I spent a third of my life in New England, and I have such a big heart for Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Gillette Stadium, all the New England sports teams. I hate any team associated with New York. I hate New York teams, but I love me some New England teams. Kassie and Willy, welcome. I'm so honored to have both of you on the Reverb Roundtable. How are you both in New England? Tell us where you're at.
Yeah, do you want to start, Willy?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm here just a couple miles away from Foxborough. It's currently a 3 games in 8-day stretch. So just a little downtime. Thank you for having us on. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Amazing. Yeah. Kassie, where are you at?
Yeah, so I'm at home in Boston working from home, but, just Boston is 30 miles away from Foxborough. So bounce back to the stadium a few times, a month for games and whatnot, but working from home for now.
Amazing. I am, like I said, being a New Englander, a Southern New Englander, this podcast episode, I'm super pumped about it because New England sports is a religion. Okay. And I know Kassie has to jump around and play between sports and events and all kinds of things at Gillette Stadium, which we're going to jump into here in just a second. But in New England, sports is like everything. It is the politics aren't even as important as sports are in New England for so many people.
No, Clark, I was like, Clark, what are we going to talk about today? He's like, they're from New England. It'll be
exactly.
So this is going to be fun. I want to ask Kassie and Willy this question, let you guys kind of jump back and forth here. You have a very unique situation where Kassie's running social and digital content for an event venue, Gillette Stadium, one of the most renowned venues in the country, honestly. And Willy, you're running content and strategy and stuff for one brand within this massive umbrella. And it's a fascinating conversation that I want to just jump right out of the gates and talk about. But Kassie was around before you. She's been
totally.
She's the veteran for over 10 years. That blows my mind. And if you look at her Twitter bio, she's not social media. She's not an intern. She is a leader. She doesn't say that, but I'm throwing that in there because she's not an intern, and we hate it when people act like social media is this little tiny task. Kassie, tell us about your journey and how you dance back and forth between all of these brands, all of these different events at Gillette Stadium.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for saying all that. I really appreciate it. I had a really weird, I'll kind of go into really quickly how I got to where I was. It was a weird path. I was a theology and psychology major in college. So that this is not what I thought I was going to be doing, but kind of fell into a marketing internship my junior year with the New England Patriots. A friend of mine had worked there and, I became enamored with it. Worked there, just instantly fell in love with it. The craziness of working in sports was just so... It just made such an impact on me. And then from there, moved over and interned for our business development and external affairs department, which is actually where I work now. And so that department basically handles, among other things, every full stadium event that doesn't fall under Revolution Soccer or New England Patriot football. So it's concerts, it's NCAA events, we had the Dalai Lama one year, we had Supercross, Monster Jam, kind of all of those one-offs kind of fall into our bucket. And yeah, when I started, we didn't even have social media was just not what it is. I started, in 2008. And so I had a Facebook page, personally, but there wasn't, the business side of it. And so just randomly one day when we were putting together a marketing plan for a concert, I think, I just kind of to my boss was like, we should probably have like a Facebook page or something. So if people have questions, whatever, and just thought it was going to be like an afterthought. And then it just grew into something that I don't think any of us really thought it was going to become as big as it has been. But yeah, it's really cool. So like, it's all those concerts. So it's a lot of live music that I'm managing from a social standpoint. But then, with Willy and from our Patriots team, it's, deferring to them on, when it's a Revs game or a Patriots game and helping them amplify pieces, or if there's messaging that they need to get out, kind of supporting them in those roles. But it's been really cool for me to be able to kind of live in those two worlds of live music and sports, like two huge passions of mine. I've been really lucky to kind of have that unique setting to work in both.
Fascinating. I'm going to jump in with a question. I know Will and I are going to go back and forth here, but to transition over to Willy. Willy, what's it like looking up to Kassie and being like, hey, will you retweet me? Will you share our post?
No. It's totally, Cassie's got so much more clout, and not only here, but like in the social space, like in general, about to crack 10,000 on Twitter. She's got ESPN anchors replying to her and stuff like that. Oh. I mean, she's got it made. But no, with Kassie, it's actually pretty cool. And it's obviously been a really interesting time in the 15, 16 months I've been here, right? Because I think the other weekend was our first event like together in person. Right. Like literally like where she was in the same tier as I was, whereas other events where there was no fans, she was up in the stands and I was like down in my bubble. So that's super neat in and of itself, right? Or like in the flesh and stuff like that for the first thing. But no, with Kassie and obviously what she's built and, what they have there in Gillette and obviously, continual winning throughout the organization. It's just, it's a real treat and it's real awesome to like, obviously be a part of the ecosystem of Gillette and, how it like, encompasses the entire Foxborough, New England area, right? Represents everything, the fanaticism of everything.
Willy, so obviously Kassie just kind of gave her rundown, a little bit of high level of what she does and how she got there. It's your turn. Kind of tell us like how you got to where you're at and then more what your job kind of looks like on a day-to-day. And obviously that's changing as we're exiting out of COVID and entering back into these in-person events.
Yeah, for sure. So I have a pretty strong soccer background in general. I went to college in Michigan and then finished in Arkansas. I'm originally a New Jersey kid, so the New York hate, I really can't, stand a little bit. It's a couple jabs here off the bat.
It hurts, man. It hurts.
Yeah, I'm a diehard, a couple teams.
Jersey's even worse than New York. Like New York's bad. I don't like Jersey's way worse.
See, that's false. NJ Gov Twitter, everybody knows that's Twitter account in all the world, basically. But I don't know. I have a strong soccer background. Began doing an internship after college in Oklahoma and like minor leagues. Then transitioned and came back home to work for my hometown team, the New York Red Bulls, for a number of years, and then 2 weeks before the world shut down, before COVID, I joined the New England Revolution as another MLS venture for myself. And then from the day to day, it's basically, I lead all the social channels. I would say 99.8% of everything that goes out onto every platform. I'm the one who clicks post or schedule or things of that sort. We have a bit of a smaller team compared to some other MLS clubs, but, small but efficient team. And recently, in recent years, they hired Bruce Arena, most famous American soccer coach probably to walk the planet. And then, they obviously spent a decent amount of money on roster here. So it's a really exciting time. We went to an Eastern Conference final last year, one of the deepest runs in 5-6 years. Kassie's seen actually a number of Revolution deep runs. And then obviously we don't have that elusive MLS Cup title yet, but obviously with the resources and with Bruce,
it's a New England team. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Yeah. So that's what I do. And then obviously, we have a couple of different organizational entities like a reserve team, some academies, that all fall under things that we touch and branch out and try and bring spotlight to as well.
All right, I have a question. This was not on the list. Okay. We're going coffee roundtable style.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. This is starting off strong. So Kassie, you said theology and psychology. So I was kind of not really that exact background, but I was like sort of theology and music. And now I run a team of real-time content creators at events. I can't tell you the whole story because it's a long but interesting story of how I made it from that to this. I'm curious, how did you make it from that to this? What's the path and what are the similarities in psychology and theology that maybe you've found as a track in now communicating on digital media platforms?
Yeah, it's a good question. I swear my boss for like the first 5 years that I worked there, like would introduce me to people as being like, this is Kassie. She was a theology major. It's like, okay, like we can just maybe like skip over that.
Move past that.
Yeah, but I think, I had kind of fallen into that internship because someone I knew had it. And then I had, kind of worked on like game days with her when they needed more help or whatever and kind of made those connections. And I think, thinking back on it now, I think it probably helped me because I was so hyper aware of the fact that I was like the only intern that wasn't like a sports marketing major, that I felt like everyone was looking at me like, what is she doing here? She doesn't deserve to be here. So I think that probably made me work like 10 times harder, which like probably made me a better intern because I was so hyper focused on that, on proving that I deserve to be there and that the random theology major like actually can do this work. But yeah, I think, once I started realizing that this was something that was really interesting to me and a possible, occupation when I graduated, I started taking, as many courses in college that had to do with that. So there was like sports marketing course that I took. There was marketing, like psychology of marketing that I took. So there were pieces of that I was once I realized that sports was something really interesting to me, like I could kind of, at least for the last like year and a half that I was in school, kind of pick up those courses, which really did help. And yeah, I think it's funny. I mean, psychology of marketing, I think definitely helps of like understanding all of that goes into like how marketing, reaches the brain and like what people are thinking is just so endlessly interesting to me. I think on the flip side too, from both probably the theology and psychology standpoint of, I think I just read people really well. And that's really helped from all of those courses that like, and all of you know this, like the people that you meet in sports and live music are like some wild personalities. And like, there are some like really weird crews that you can come in contact with. And I think that's really helped me kind of balance, the wildness of like, especially a concert day of like different people coming in and interacting with different groups and really kind of managing those relationships in a good way, I think has definitely helped from that background. But yeah, and I think, just overall kind of those psychology courses that I took that were able to combine sports marketing psychology really did, I think, help me for when then I graduated and picked up that role.
I'm going to take that a bit further, and then Willy, you get to answer this next. What is one of the biggest hurdles from a psychological standpoint when you're trying to reach multiple audiences? How do you apply the psychology to the content you create across multiple platforms versus whether it's, I don't know if you'll have a TikTok, I apologize, but whether it's TikTok or Facebook or Instagram stories or Twitter, like how do you use psychology to get into all these different audiences, Kassie? And then I'm going to give you more time, Willy, to think about it. But she's got more audiences, I think, than you do.
For sure.
Yeah, we have a weird audience in that it's not like for Willy or for like our Patriots team, like everyone that's following Willy is interested in the Revs. Like whether you hate the Revs or you love them, you're going there because you want that content.
It's a very niche audience.
Right. And ours is like Justin Bieber fans and Metallica fans and Patriots fans and Revs fans and Taylor Swift fans. So like they're all over the map. And so, I think for us, it's a lot of targeting our content. So like not everyone is seeing everything we push out, because if I'm here for Patriots content and I'm seeing 25 Taylor Swift updates a day, like I'm unfollowing you. Like that's not what I'm here for. Right. So especially on Twitter, when you can just kind of like throw that @ sign in front of a tweet. So like only those people are seeing it is what we do a lot. And I think too, like the psychology, I think, of the fan base is what helps me understand and craft like how I speak to those audiences. Like I don't speak to Revs fans the same way I speak to Taylor Swift fans or Metallica fans. And people are coming for different content. It's funny, like I think our younger audience really appreciate like the engagement and that one-on-one contact and having that verified account, like their content or reply back, like feeling heard, I think is really important. Our older fans tend to be more like, tell me when tickets go on sale. Tell me when the gates open. Like, I don't need you like responding back with like inside jokes. Like, I'm just here for the content. And like our younger fans, like they really appreciate that. And so you listen and you spend a lot of time reading like what those fans are saying and then kind of reflect that back to them and what they're looking for. So you can provide that content. So it's a lot more one-on-one interactions or kind of like creating those like one-on-one relationships and inside jokes with those fan bases so that they know that, you know, you're really dialed in, like you understand the artist, the band that's coming, like you've taken the time to understand that because they really appreciate that band and that person. They want to make sure that you are kind of putting in that same effort. So it's a lot of listening and then just kind of bouncing it back to them depending on what they're looking for.
Willy? I envy your job because you have, not that you have an easier job.
It's on the record, Willy, before you start that your job's easy and Cassie's hard. So just take that as a free recognition as you go in.
I said it's not easier. It's just different. How do you approach the psychology of how do you connect with fans?
Yeah, big time. Like this is, I guess, like one of the most important parts of a team that does play a little bit of like fifth fiddle in Title Town, USA, which is Boston, right? So I think when I took the job, it was, hey, we have all these pieces of like an original franchise, which is on the up and up again, right? You know? So how do you placate to say like, hey, we belong here. We're good on the field. Let's take that to off the field as well, to social, right? Whereas you've had down years in the past, right? So naturally, your content is affected, right? If you don't have, prosperous seasons on the field or deep playoff runs. So those have eluded for quite some time. So when I came here, it was like, hey, we have superstar players. You have Bruce Arena. Kassie knows we love to highlight Bruce as much as possible in the legend that he is. So the psychology behind that is totally taking it. And if, I am the brand voice, so per se, and, I am a little bit of like still a Gen Z right in that middle area there. So it's like, yeah, absolutely. Similar to what Kassie says, it's relate to every fan, right? We do have like this hardcore older who've been here since 1996, that still come to games, wear the jerseys from 15 years ago. But, like, how do you grow that fan base? How do you diversify it, right, throughout New England, right? This is what we represent. And I think the cultural angle for me is like, you have to bring in everybody who's bigger than the brand, right? So whether it's rappers, whether it's Red Sox players, whether it's Bruins players, like that is the key to growing and being like more relevant in your market. Outside of like winning does all the talking and selling in reality, right? So now that you have that, it's just like a seamless combination. If we were bad, I wouldn't really know how to answer the question or how to tell you because I would just be in the corner being like, I have no engagement, I have no retweets, I have no likes. But yeah, the connecting way that I do that and how I engage everywhere, as someone who lives on their phone and their devices as well, is totally like comment, reply, bring in, former alumni, ESPN anchors to like, retweet, engage with our content. Like this morning, Taylor Twellman is a, really famous player of ours, played here, legend, works for ESPN. It's on all their platforms, Sports Nation. And, this morning, we just so happened to be that we opened the stadium 19 years ago. He scored 2 goals. You tag him in it. He shares it. He engages. That's 10,000 new views because he's got 500,000 followers, right? And he's 4, 5, 6 times bigger than the team itself.
You guys are both championing these huge brands, and obviously that is going to look like a lot of content producing. It's probably going to look like a decent amount of content management and maybe some project and team management. What do y'all's individual teams kind of look like? What backing resources do you guys have for content creation that's happening, whether it's at an event in real time or week to week, as you guys are just trying to keep content flow going? Is this people on your staff? Are you guys
Willy's
like
smiling?
Team wonders?
Willy's smiling.
Like Willy, I already see Willy go, man. Yeah, so like tell me about that. Tell me about y'all's teams or lack thereof in regards to what's producing all this content.
Oh, sure. So I think it's so weird because I'm in that weird like gray area of like not a team or like not an athlete. Yep. So we kind of like fall through like the different big buckets. So, the team is basically like, it was just me for like the first 12 years, like just Kassie Epstein trying to do everything, which like has its pros, but also like really has its cons. So now, we have, another team member coordinator that helps me with that content and kind of coming up with content, creating it, managing a lot of our, giveaway fulfillment and all of that. We have like, my department doesn't necessarily have those like digital designers and videographers and editors. So we lean to, the team at Gillette Stadium, like the general kind of digital team that's supporting every department. And so that's where like my submissions go to, of like, here's what we're looking to put together, whether it's a graphic for a holiday or for, a video that we're looking to cut. So we kind of pull from those bigger groups. It's not like all under our one kind of unified team, but luckily, because it is such a big brand and there are so many entities under the Gillette Stadium umbrella, the craft group properties, that there are those kind of big content groups that we can go to and draw into for all that support.
Awesome.
I'm going to follow up on that really fast. Hold on, before we go to Willy, I got to follow up really fast. So you are completely, say if you have a massive event, and you really want to show off that this event happened at Gillette Stadium in real time, sort of, you're completely dependent on the content speed and quality of the brands that exist within the stadium. Is that correct? Within the venue?
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because, a lot of what I do is, related to events that we don't own, as Gillette Stadium, right? So if it's not like Revolution or Patriots, a lot of that is not under my control. So if we have a concert coming, it's a lot of me deferring to that tour, that management group, their marketing team, to figure out what can we pull, what can we post, what assets do we have that we can leverage. And that a lot of the tours come in and they're just like, here's when we go on sale, do whatever you want. And then we have tours that come through and are like, here's exactly what you can post. Here's the exact emoji that you can post. Like, not this emoji, this emoji. Like, it has to be at this time. So it really does vary depending on who we're working with and what I can't even post, because it's not technically our event. We're just the host venue. So a lot of that depends on just communicating with them and figuring out kind of that middle ground of what we're able to do from our end.
Fascinating. Now I'm going to let Willy go. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah. So I won't get into that so much, but obviously I have, a direct boss, the director of digital media. I think he's been here about as long as Kassie has, or right around that area. So, we do have a bunch of people in our organization who have been here in the long term with the craft group in general. And then, just defers down to myself for all the channels in and of itself. And then obviously, just to videographers that travel with the team and do some other things, some photography, myself photography, we kind of all are a jack of all trades in certain areas, which is I think the key to working in professional sports is wear every hat, and don't say much about what size cap or whatever cap you are or aren't wearing that day. And then obviously we have a little bit of two like host reporters that cover the website, write about the team, stand up hits in stadium, stuff like that do fall under like our marketing digital team in their time. And then obviously it just comes down to, in the COVID world, when you're in bubbles, you have to enter bubbles and test every other day for the last 15 months. And then with travel now, right? It's super restricted. It's private. It's myself and a videographer to every single game. So what we capture and what we want there all comes from there, right? Whether it is on an every single day basis, and even when it comes to like training and who's allowed in the building, who's allowed around the players, it's been the same little team throughout the whole thing. So I don't know anything outside of the COVID era, and unfortunately, I was here 2 weeks. I didn't, I didn't meet Kassie until, July. I think I joined in February, and I in the July.
That was going to be my follow-up question. So you came on 2 weeks before COVID hit. So obviously your entire work environment looks drastically different from your perspective to probably what it's going to end up turning into, which could be a blessing or a curse. It totally depends on how it ends up working out for you. But within that, you obviously had experience to some degree walking into this job. So how much of a slap in the face was it as you were walking in and now all of a sudden everything that you thought it was going to be is shifting? And then what was kind of what was your process in that? What was your what were you doing to find new methods and new ways of doing things? What resources were you pulling from? And then I guess kind of like to cap that off, what are you looking at doing as you're entering into a little bit more freedom, pulling a little bit more away from COVID, a little bit more into events?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really great question. As you're saying, yeah, this is not my first rodeo in soccer, but obviously I did not expect it to be what the world experienced. You know what I mean? Like realistically. So yeah, when you stepped in, 2 weeks, we had 2 games, and then it was like, all right, shut down, build a strategy for the next 8 months,
Who knows
year.
how long, yeah.
We don't know. You know what I mean? So that was something where it was like a true collaboration of a team with teammates I didn't even meet. I don't think I even truly met the players individually until they came back out of the bubble in Orlando, and we started testing again in June, right? So like half these players that I was trying to like get assets to or, highlight, I didn't know myself, right? So in what we were talking about with strategy and collaboration, it was totally like, I think we started off in the esports world of like FIFA, right? FIFA is the greatest, biggest game. Everybody plays it, whether you're, adult, kid, teenager, whatever. So yeah, those were like some simulations that we built out in the first couple months. And then I think as the whole league and other teams in general, we're all searching for like, where do we get engagement? There's not a single sport on in the world. Like, what do we do? It was collaborating with other teams and saying like, hey, we're going to run the simulation. We'll have you cross post it. We'll give you all the assets. We'll tweet it in real time. Like people are watching a FIFA simulation video game. And, that's credit to like our video team who was like, hey, let's do something like this and keep that going. And we did 6-7 different teams. Some articles got written in the Globe and stuff like that around here. And then, it was just a continual, you did not know when we were starting. You know what I mean? You didn't really have like an end game in mind. So it was continually every week, everybody went through the phase, IG Lives, let's jump on. Everybody wants to hear everybody talk and watch each other. Let's stream for 2 hours and just chat. So it was harnessing again, alumni. What are they doing? Are they safe? Talking to different people like all around the world, right? Because like, even players, you want to give them a little bit of privacy. What are like international players dealing with their families and they can't get over here and vice versa. And then to turn to happier times when we did restart, right? And you had to go to the bubble. I actually didn't go to the bubble. We had a couple other staff members go. So again, it was like from afar, what can we capture down there? Send as much back and let's try and capture it. But in the same token, at that point, the virus, was still in a way that was really ravaging the country. So there were so many protocols to say like, I got this awesome piece of content, but the person in the back is not masked or something like that, right? So there were so many processes and steps to send it all the way up to like our team president and say like, hey man, I love it, but we can't post it, man. It's not good optics. Like our guys are having a good time in the bus, going to a game. Sorry, can't post it. You know what I mean? So there was so many parameters of like, hey, if instead of posting it, just err on the side of caution, man. Err on the side of caution. So I think the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to is that like when we get out completely and when the world hopefully returns to full normalcy, it's just being able to show like the most organic of moments, without caution, right? To be able to show like the most interaction of fans, you know what I mean, of people, high fives, autographs, meet and greets, those types of like organic moments that you can't conjure up, you can't create without the fan. And especially in soccer, it's a global sport. So like the sport is nothing without the fans, right? So when you're playing in empty stadiums, I think you see everywhere. It's like, man, this is like a real bummer. We miss just the heckling, really anything, you know what I mean? Of that sort. So, and then one other thing when you're coming out of it is just the collaborations, right? To be allowed to have other New England people around our team. I think there's, we have the PLL coming to Gillette here at the end of this month, beginning of June. So Paul Rabel, he's an innovator, a guy that I know in the past that I've worked with at Red Bull, former lacrosse guy. Our coach is a former professional lacrosse player before he was ever a, world-renowned soccer coach. So those are the types of things where you're like looking forward to, like, where can I cross-collaborate? Where can I do something just not with soccer that can elevate, a brand into some type of, longer sustaining relevancy in this market and beyond.
It's been tough. It's been so tough on so many levels for all of us. Granted, we've learned a lot. We've been able to back away a little bit. And I saw one of our former podcast guest, Tyson Hutchins from Clemson, tweet yesterday. We're getting rid of the Instagram grid, like feed symmetry, like just get rid of it. It's been interesting to see all that. But let's go to some super, super practical questions to help our audience know what you guys see as the most successful, lucrative platforms right now, and maybe why. So, Kassie, what is your go-to engagement platform that if you post content, it's gonna just naturally perform well? Twitter, of all the platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. What do you know is working, and maybe a sentence or two on why it's working?
Yeah, so I think, Instagram for us is just the far biggest audience that we have. So you just get, by nature of getting the most eyeballs on something, tends to perform better for us. But it's funny, like Facebook isn't necessarily our best performing platform, but when you get the right audience, Facebook runs with it. Like it just tends to be an older audience. When we've posted, we had a couple events over the past 12 months that were parking lot events, right? This was like drive through, you're in your car, like really safe social distance. So those events that tend to be geared more towards parents, families, bringing their young kids, those posts on Facebook, organic, without any, boosted money behind it, did better than like when I post about like a Revs or Patriots score, like just by nature of like what the event was and what that audience is like what they're coming to Facebook for. So for me, it's really dependent on like who you're trying to reach. Like if I'm posting that same, promotional piece for that drive-through on Twitter, which we did, like Twitter got like no engagement for it, and Facebook like blew off the map. So, it's really dependent on, targeting who you're looking to reach for the platform. But for us, just naturally with Instagram just being far bigger than our others, usually tends to be, the biggest click-through drivers.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's all content and audience specific. Willy, go. What's working for you? What platforms?
Yeah, surprisingly, Twitter is actually kind of our biggest in general, right? We've been trying to grow the Instagram. There are, some viral moments, but like my job is pretty reliant upon players doing things without fans. We're relying upon players doing viral type moments or scoring cool goals or doing tricks or something of that sort, right? So within the Twitter realm, and a little bit of some of the connections that I have with some bigger entities, Bleacher Report and stuff like that. We have a lot of real success in finding, a great moment, a great player, a great goal, and harvesting that same video out to like different, way bigger entities with millions. So Twitter is that. And like I said, Twitter is just an easier ability to like harness former players, bigger blue check marks to like come under the umbrella and share this in this point of time.
You guys obviously, you know each other. You're working in very similar veins. You're working closely with each other. There's partnership and camaraderie here. Kassie, tell us what Willy is best at. And then Willy, you're going to follow that up with what Cassie's best at.
Oh my God, I'm glad you asked that because I was literally like going to chime in at one point to say this because Willy does so well at providing assets and content for people like in such an easy way that they can just share it and amplify it. Like I'm a big proponent of like, if you give different groups all the tools and like a pre-made graphic, it's already sized, all the copy. Like if you give people all of those pieces and make it super easy. Then they're going to post it. If you're asking them, this really generic, like, oh, can you post about this? But I don't have the video. I don't have the copy. It's just not going to get done. And Willy is so good at leveraging, all the tools at his disposal and all the different people in New England, soccer contacts, non-soccer contacts, to be able to take that like video, photo, all those content pieces and really easily give it like wrapped in a bow for people to be able to then just push on their accounts and amplify it is so smart. And he does such a good job. I don't know how he does it with just like one person. Like he's constantly getting that content out to different people. It's amazing.
All right, Willy, before you talk about Kassie, what's the secret behind that? What are the tools that you use to distribute these? Like we've used
Kassie's very nice. I don't like when people talk about me.
Dropbox. Well, you're apparently amazing. So tell us your secrets.
No. I mean, look, I am as much a self-promoter as I am, through brand accounts, team accounts, and stuff like that. But I am a numbers person, right? So, like, if you see numbers, I will continue to do it until kingdom comes. If it does not do numbers, and we have data and we have things behind it, it's just going to get axed. But in regurgitating and resharing content and all types of purposes, right, there is Twitter Studio, there is individual links, there is cross-posting. There are ways that there are some people that do not want to share content with the same copy that you put things out on, right?
Yep.
So in that purpose and in those easy little tools, it's saying, hey, these are the 5 videos we captured from our videographer or in moments that are able to be reshared. Here are all the links that you can put your own copy on, right? And here's a little like disclaimer of like what happened, what actually happened. Same thing with what I do with athletes, and same thing what I do where if a guy scores a goal or makes a great save and he wants that video and he wants to reshare it on Twitter or something like that, but he doesn't like that I really went overboard on the copy with like "Go Lazo" with a million O's and exclamation marks and emojis. He doesn't want to self-promote himself in really that manner. Most athletes in this space don't. So, in reality, it's just putting everything on a platter, for everyone to say like, hey, I want this shared. I think it's great. I do it with the league. I send a weekly email to MLS Social and I say, hey, here's all the studio links that we can share. If you guys want to reshare some of our content, this is exactly like the best 5 pieces that we would love for you to regurgitate that you didn't catch in real time. So with everybody, we're all busy. We're all wearing multiple caps. We're all doing everything. Make it easier for everyone else. And you'll see like, the reach, the rewards of like having a cohesive like relationship with who you work with and who in the same league you are. Players too.
Love it.
Let's go. All right, so Willy, what's Kassie great at?
Oof. Kassie is like the star of stars. In reality, Kassie gets the queen moniker of Gillette. I think all over. You saw it was recently her birthday, so she did see. You saw so many queen emojis, right? Where I think she's great at, and it's really like something I look forward to when the world returns is like seeing her in action. I've never truly seen her like in the space of like music and entertainment. With soccer, we don't get the biggest crowds. I've never seen Gillette full in terms of like a football game, a concert, anything. But like what she is great at, in my time here is definitely like, just I think making everyone's like job and life easier. I think even in like communications, like she just like tees everything up so well in a way like, absolutely, I want to get that to Kassie like ASAP, you know what I mean? And with everything, you know what I mean? Like she's so collaborative and she like really is like a true like team player organizationally. Kassie's got a lot of clout in New England, so she goes, can I introduce you to this person or that person or this person to like make your job easier? She's sending an email within the next 30 minutes. And like, honestly, like there's not enough like Kassies in this industry. In reality.
Thanks, Willy.
12 years. I mean, was it 12 years, Kassie? 12 years being at a sports organization or a brand like that is unheard of. Unheard of.
Yeah.
What's your secret sauce as far as, and then we're going to wrap it up. We have 2 questions at the end here. What's your secret sauce? Relationships, longevity, expertise? Like, what's your secret sauce? How do you do so well with relationships and guiding people?
Yeah, I think it's always like, I really relate to people who are like work really hard and just like be nice. Like, you know, I just feel like there's this like stigma of like, well, I'm a really hard worker, so like I'm just going to be kind of like rude or whatever. And it's like, you don't need to be that way to command respect and to be helpful and to be a hard worker. And so I think I've kind of just like always been that way, because it just makes everyone's lives easier. Like, it's not going to help me if I'm being super rude to you to like demand something immediately. Like, I'm geared to helping people more when they're nice to me and like polite and respectful. Like, then if you give respect, you get respect back. And I think, you know, just working for the same company for so long, it's just been, I think it's more of, it's not even like the bigger company that you work for. And I think this is for really any role. It's like really dependent on like the core people that you work with, like your boss, like the people that you're working with day to day are really what usually impact you more than like the biggest corporation that you're working under. And so I've been really lucky to have a really good team. And my boss, you know, from day one, when I proposed like setting up a Facebook account, he was just always like, social media is not my thing, but like, if you want to take and run with it, like, I trust you and like, you do it. Like, it's not, that's not my expertise. And so he's been always really good at like, I defer to you. Like, I'm not trying to like manage something that like, I'm not the expert on. So like, I trust you. You're the one that's like doing well at this. And then also like, you know, we've been really lucky. We've had like incredible events and, you know, I've gone to 6 Super Bowls. Like, it's really hard to like pull away from something when you're a part of like really cool events.
Unbelievable.
And I think also like I'm kind of right. We didn't win all of them. There were some pretty bad ones where that was like not the best trip. But we I think also like I think kind of a rarity in that like I have been with this account since like follower number 1. So like it's very hard to like pull those accounts from my hands.
Mad respect.
Right. Like it's like I remember like when we got 1,000 followers and I thought that was like the biggest thing that had ever happened. And so, you know, there's so much, like, it's obviously not me, it's not Cassie's brand, but it is so, you know, you are so emotionally tied into it because, you know, you've seen it from day one. So it would take a lot to pull those away from me.
So helpful. All right. You guys have invested so much time here. We're so grateful. We're going to wrap it with a question, kind of a rapid fire session here. And I'm going to go ahead and give it to you because I don't know if I gave you these questions or if we gave them to you, but here they are. You've been around for a long time doing this, both of you, tons of experience. So you also are communicators and you have tons of opinion, right? You have a lot of opinion about the socials and the digitals and all the places. We're going to ask you, what should people start doing? What should people stop doing? So leaders and creators that are listening, we have many photographers, videographers, producers, channel managers. People are like, okay, tell me what I should stop doing. Tell me what I should start doing. When you look out across Twitter right now, you look out across Instagram, the things that just irk you. Ready? We're going to do that one first. What just drives you nuts when it comes to content? Ready? Let's go with Willy first. What should people stop doing today? It's annoying. Quit doing it. Go.
2 quick ones. Very opinionated I am. Stop screenshotting and posting your tweets in Instagram.
On Instagram?
Yes. That is like the biggest, it's the cheapest form of engagement. If you get the engagement, kudos to you, but it's cheap and
I thought that was cool. I thought it was cool. Okay, got it. What was that? Was that 2 or was that 1?
And then the second one, stop making strategy out of IGTV at this point in time. I think everybody, you should have learned by now that making a strategy out of Instagram TV will send you nowhere.
Good to know. All right, let's jump to Kassie. Helpful. Kassie, what should people stop doing? It's driving you nuts.
I have 2 things too. I think they're both with Instagram, right? You had mentioned this before with Tyson. Like, I just, there's no point in making your Instagram grid like symmetrical and beautiful. Like, people are looking at it on a feed. You don't need that. A lot of the time people post like a fragment of a photo and like that means nothing to me when I'm scrolling. So stop doing that. And there's this big push nowadays to like erase your entire Instagram feed when like there's an announcement coming, but then you like erase all of your history and like all of the different things that had happened in the past. Like, I get it that you're getting like a nice big, like you're going to get a lot of eyes on it because it looks dramatic, but then you lose everything afterwards. I don't like it. I think it's overplayed.
We had a brand that like one of the people there almost got fired because they accidentally deleted all the content instead of archiving it. Because obviously you can archive it on Instagram, but they like didn't know that, so they just went in and started deleting, and it was like, dude, actually deleted it all? You didn't just archive it? It's dangerous game.
There was
people.
a very similar story that a brand 2 or 3 weeks ago did that, and then the Instagram shut down their account for doing that, for deleting, because I think they had purchased the account or something. We were like, the whole thing, it was real shady. And then they were like, well, we don't need all this content, so we'll delete it. We want the followers. And when I heard, I was like, uh-oh, y'all are in trouble. And Instagram shut down the account. Anyways, okay, ready? Last question.
That's what people should stop doing. What should they start doing?
Kassie, go back to you.
Oh, I think that's a really good question, because I don't even really have like the most concise answer for it. I think it goes back to like what Willy's doing. Like, I think giving your content to other people that can amplify it and post it on their accounts. And there's all those studies, like I know Open Doors, like the company does a lot with this, where like a player posting a video can get so much more traction than the team account. And like, you have to be selfless in your content. And like, it can't just be like, I'm going to post it because it's mine. Like, if it's going to get more eyes and more traction from someone else posting it, you have to be smart enough and willing to let them do that, because it's helping everyone, even if it doesn't come from your specific account.
Instead of individuals championing brands, which has happened for like years and decades, pre-social, it's like a flip to where brands are really starting to champion individuals, and that's where they're seeing the highest ROI.
Right.
Yep.
Willy, what should people start doing?
It's tough, right? Like Kassie actually alluded to like the gold standard of like what I want to be and what I eventually want to continue to do. But definitely, empower your athletes if you are team side. And then just on a simple type of thing, it's like really incorporate reels into your strategy at this juncture in time, because you don't have like an analytical tracking at the moment for it. But if you are a sole numbers individual for your client or for something, those are going to reach the masses, as opposed to if you posted a square or 8x10 video in your grid and you ended up with 3,000 views. Whereas if you did a reel, you sized it, you put a cover photo on it, 10, 15, 20, 30, 50,000 views. And like, how does anybody deny that? And who doesn't want 15,000 views as opposed to 3?
That's great. It's fascinating to hear you guys talk so much about Instagram. And I feel really bad. I keep saying you guys. Will said y'all earlier, and I meant to like,
I like y'all.
I meant to say, do you know what y'all means? But it's good. I feel like we're with family talking to some New Englanders, and I guess Will, you're not. You're a Jersey guy. But.
I'm not. I am a newly adopted son that takes on certain personas of New England.
Okay.
But can't get away from like the DNA of the brash, New York, New Jersey. Oh yeah.
Well, when I come back to New England and cross through Jersey on Interstate 76 or 78 or whatever it is, I'll at least wave to your New Jersey people, and then I'll come visit you guys in New England, because this New Englander has never been to Gillette Stadium in all my life.
No way.
I'm embarrassed to.
Unacceptable.
It's unacceptable, but I'm coming back. I got family in Rhode Island, still tons of family. We go up pre-pandemic. We went up almost yearly. So anyways, none of our listeners care about that.
Rhode Island calamari though is the real deal that I learned in the most recent like election cycle. Sorry, don't talk about that, but yeah, Rhode Island calamari. We learned about that. I never knew that was like a differentiating thing than
there is
regular calamari.
A lot of things about Rhode Island that y'all can't mess with. My Rhody Rams. I'm coming. My son is a Rhody Rams fan. He went to his first college basketball game at URI, and so we got to come back up there. Thank you both. William and I are so grateful. The Reverb team, we love talking to experts in the field, and especially those that are not in the South. We get to talk to some people way up in New England that are crushing it on digital. We are so thankful for you both. We appreciate your time, and we hope that this does well for you. And we'll talk to everybody next time on the Reverb Roundtable. Tons of great content coming your way. We hope you have an amazing week. We'll talk to you next time.
Thank you so much for joining us this week on Reverb Roundtable. Here's your weekly reminder that we write show notes for every single episode. They are full of so much information, every link we talk about, every piece of content we talk about. You definitely want to get these show notes. To grab those, just go to rvrb.cc/podcast and subscribe to our email list. We'll see you next week on Reverb Roundtable.